Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you are here right now. Oh gosh, it is good to be here today. I hope everybody's having a great Friday. Let's see, today is Friday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. So hopefully folks are having a good time, maybe having some tacos today, some margaritas, and just generally enjoying your day. All right. So here we are coming live to you, the League of Gluten-Free Adventurers. My name is Miri Pizann. I am a gluten-free coach, and I have been gluten-free for a decade. I remember what it was like when I first started my gluten-free adventure, when I felt like the only safe food was ice cubes, which was really frustrating. And even when there was safe food, man, it sure didn't taste very good. I had a lot of loneliness, a lot of isolation. I didn't go out. I was afraid to go out anywhere. And I really missed just really good bread, right? But a lot has happened in the last decade, both for me personally and in the world at large, certainly in the US, to the point where I now feel like I can help other people through their journeys, because at this point I eat delicious food all the time. I love my gluten-free bread and it loves me back. I feel healthier and happier than I have in a very long time. And that's part of being on the gluten-free adventure. That's the goal, right? Or not even necessarily the goal, but that's how you want to travel down the road of life. And so if anybody has questions or wonders about how to do that, that's what I'm here for. All right, let's see. So I see a couple of people coming in. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be a part of this community. Everyone is so supportive and you have such big hearts and you share so deeply and so honestly. And I just absolutely love that. So thank you for being a part of this fabulous community. Today, we're going to talk about how to effectively read food labels for gluten. Now, I have to admit that most of my experience in this, when it comes to the intricacies, is around US label and US label laws. I'm not as familiar the further away from where I live you get. So there's only so much, but I mean, like the basics, what are the basics? Wheat, rye, barley, and the things that are made with wheat, rye, and barley are generally not safe for consumption for us. The trick can come in that there are a lot of different names that wheat goes by. It's not just wheat like you would think, but for some reason, food manufacturers like to use the different names of wheat. So frequently in pasta, you'll see durum as an option, but there's also like all the ancient grains like einkorn and kamut, and so when you're reading labels and looking for gluten in them, you really do need to kind of memorize, maybe not to the point where you can recite them, but you need to be able to recognize them on site. Up, that's wheat, it's out. Up, that's rye, that's out. That's barley. And so, you got to learn the different names that wheat goes by. And if you have questions about that, I do have a list on my website that you can go to, and it just kind of lists off all the different names that wheat hides under. I also have some names of barley as well. So that one is a bit easier because usually it's either barley or it's barley malt, or sometimes just malt. And while it is possible to make malt from other grains, usually the one that they use is barley. So if you see anything like Ovaltine has, or malted milk or malted milkshakes, or anything with the malt inside the candies like Maltesers in the UK, which is similar to Whoppers here in the US, all of that is out because of the malt, until such time as they start using a different grain to make it. But that also means that like malt syrup, that one, nope, that's out too. So the tricky thing about US labels when it comes to reading the labels is that there's a couple of different places that they can list the ingredients that may cause us problems. And the fun part is they're really only required to list it the one time. So you have to read all of the places. And guess what? None of those places is on the front of the box. Anything that is on the front of the box, if it's a Starburst that says gluten-free, or even if it's just in tiny print, anything like that, that is all advertising. Okay. And as we know, people, when they're advertising, can get very excited or, maybe even lie. We don't know what's going on, but advertising is not always accurate. So you need to be reading the actual ingredients on the back of the box or the bag or the can or whatever it is to check for the ingredients. So the first place that you're going to check is the list of ingredients. Now in the US, if it contains wheat, they are required to call that out, as an allergen if it contains wheat. Rye and barley today, right now, are not considered allergens. Good times. And it also has to be like all of the wheat in order for it to be considered an allergen. Now, this can get really tricky because we do have some people in our community who are not necessarily celiac. They don't necessarily have a gluten issue, but they are allergic to wheat. And so for them, something like Caputo's flour, which is gluten-free wheat starch, would still make them sick. So, but of course you're going to know better than I would what your needs are. So I'm just throwing that out there because sometimes we're like, oh, I'm gluten-free and Caputo is great and blah, 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 blah. So, but then somebody else comes along and they're like, well, I'm gluten-free, but I can't eat that. There's a lot of different reasons that people go gluten-free. And so we just kind of want to be aware that something can contain wheat and be gluten-free for a couple of different processes. There's also a possibility that it contains wheat, claims to be gluten-free, and then kind of it still makes you sick. And that can be when they remove the gluten at different parts of the processing process. So just kind of stuff to be aware. Just because it contains wheat, it can potentially still be gluten-free, but you just want to have an understanding of what has been done to the wheat at that point. And if we are cooking for someone else who is also gluten-free, making sure that we understand what their needs are, if that makes sense. Okay, so wheat, rye, and barley, anything that's made from them. Wheat is the only one that shows up as an allergen. So that's the one that they're going to highlight. Now, sometimes wheat or gluten is used in the ingredients, but it is not immediately obvious. And the word wheat is not used in the name of whatever it is that they're doing. And so according to labeling law, at that point, they need to put it in the allergen warning at the bottom that says contains, and this is where you're going to see wheat, milk, soy, eggs, tree nuts, shellfish, whatever it is, right? So if it is not immediately obvious, they are supposed to call out. But again, this is only for whole wheat. If they're using the whole wheat, that does not mean that it's automatically a thing. So you have to read both places. You have to read the ingredients, because if it's called out, in the ingredients, they by law are not required to put it in the allergen warning. If it is not called out by name, then they are required to put it in the allergen listing. And, we can also check the front, but that I consider more of like I said, it's advertisement. So this is something that is going to catch your eye. This is going to be your first indication to look at the ingredients. It is not the end all be all. It is the combination of the list of ingredients and the allergen listing together. You need to check both. You cannot just check the allergen listing. Whew, okay. There's like all of this information, and we have to be aware of all of it. And it can be so much just to be looking at this constantly and being aware. But that's the joy of our adventure. This is one of the challenges. It comes with the territory, and this is what we get to deal with. So the other question is hidden gluten. And every so often I see this posted here in this group or in another group. People are asking, what was the thing that surprised you most? Like what food did you just like, it blew your mind that there's gluten in it? And the first one is always soy sauce. And the second one is always licorice. Like these are the two that just constantly people are having their minds blown. So soy sauce, the way that it is traditionally made, sometimes wheat is even used more than soy in soy sauce. I don't know why that is, but like if you look at the ingredients on most soy sauce, first ingredient is water, second ingredient is either soy or wheat, and the third ingredient is the other one. Welcome to planet Earth. Things are weird here. Now, that's traditionally made soy sauce, light soy sauce, Chinese style. I mean, like what Americans think of as regular soy sauce is just one of a whole bunch of different kinds. There is also gluten-free soy sauce. I believe the company is La Choy. They make soy sauce without using wheat at all. And then there's other companies like Kikkoman, and they make a with wheat version and a without wheat version. So there is a gluten-free version out there. There's also something that is called tamari, which is very, very similar to soy sauce. Traditionally, that is made without wheat, but not always. So you still have to read the label. Then you start getting into the aminos. So there's soy aminos, and that is completely gluten-free. That's just processing soy in a different way. And then if you can't have soy, there's even coconut aminos. So hopefully if you can't have soy, you can have coconut, or vice versa. And all of those are options for soy sauce. But where does soy sauce show up? It shows up in soups and sauces. It shows up in glazes and marinades. So even if you're like going to the butcher counter at the grocery store and you're like, oh, that marinated chicken breast looks so good, if it's got soy sauce in it, it's still a no, even though it's meat and we weren't even thinking. And of course, we need to watch out for breading and all of that kind of stuff too. What else? So yeah, and then candy, the licorice is like the first ingredient. It's wild. I never would have expected that. Although there are companies who do make gluten-free licorice, it is becoming more and more of a thing. You can find it, but again, you're going to have to look for it. It's not something, there is no Red Vines, there is no Twizzlers that is gluten-free. You're going to have to look for the alternative brands. And then the other one, like frequently in chocolate, barley is used as a sweetener. So barley syrup or malt is also used as a flavor enhancer. And then oddly enough, another one that consistently pops up in these lists is toothpaste. And I find that interesting because most of the major brands at this point do not have gluten in their in their recipes. There are some that do. So, definitely do read the ingredients, but for the most part, that's something that like Crest and Colgate, they tend to stay away from. Sensodyne, I don't think has it. And I mean, like even the alternatives like Tom's of Maine, I think they're safe. But again, read the label once, and just kind of keep an eye on it every so often. Just continue to read the labels. And that's true for anytime that you're shopping for a product. If you have found your brands and these are the ones that are safe, and they make the food that's safe for you and you enjoy it, you like it. If they are not a completely gluten-free company, such as Canyon Bakehouse or Char, if they ever make any product that may contain gluten, even though product has never had gluten in it before, keep an eye on it. Just every so often, make sure that you're checking that label just to be on the safe side, because companies change their recipes all the time. All the time. In fact, that's where the store Big Lots comes from, is from companies that have changed their packaging, changed their ingredients. And so they've got all this excess and they just need to get rid of it because they want to get the new, better, improved version out into the shelves. So the excess goes to places like Big Lots. That's how it works. So read your labels. I mean, boy, that's probably the bestest thing that you can do. And now you know where to look, both in the ingredients and on the allergen listing. And the other thing to know is that there's always a possibility of gluten cross-contamination. So that's where like the may contains. So there is the allergen warning for milk, soy, wheat, whatever. But then there's also underneath that a may contain. And what does the may contain mean really? What that means is that they've got all of this equipment, right? This whole production line where it mixes the thing and heats the thing and shapes the thing and cools the thing, or whatever the process is. They've got this equipment. But this product that you're purchasing is not the only thing made on that equipment. And so even though this product is gluten-free, the one that was before may have gluten in it. Now, most companies at this point do a very thorough job of cleaning their equipment, but not all. Not all of them do. So sometimes, like, there are some companies that will just run through a gluten-free product right after. So they've made their gluten full, their mainstream product, and now they're making the gluten-free, and they will do an entire batch of their gluten-free version and then toss it. And in order to get rid of the cross-contamination so that it's going to be diluted to the point where we're not going to experience any side effects from it. There's just not enough in there. But not every company does that. Not every company has the same level of responsibility. So that's where this concept of risk tolerance comes in. And things that you want to take into account are how severe are your symptoms? How severe is your condition? Celiacs, you really need to avoid any gluten at all in pretty much any amount. But, what? Not even a but. Any decision that you make on that level is going to be between you and your doctor. And I can't speak to that, but you need to decide how much risk are you able to tolerate? What percentage of, well, this might whammy me, or I might be fine, are you comfortable with? And that needs to be your guiding star when it comes to products that have may contain listed in the ingredients list. Okay, so I don't see any comments today. I am running a little bit long. My apologies. So I hope that you all have a fabulous Friday. I hope that you have a wonderful Cinco de Mayo and that you enjoy your margaritas and your tacos. and have just a beautiful weekend. And remember how truly wonderful and special you are, and that I am so grateful to be a part of this community with you. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you again real soon. All right.